Okay. Thanks, Beverly, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here as part of the Scottish Learning Festival to talk to you about our project around starting school. So the Families in Partnership Starting School project. So Laura, I'll just let you flick on to the next one. So what we're going to cover today, I'm going to introduce the team, then we're going to talk about the background, why we developed this approach to Primary 1 transition, some of the project successes and outcomes, and some of the challenges and our next steps. So I think the first slide is who we are. Laura Kennedy is on the screen. I don't know if you can see Laura, she's kept her camera on. Laura is the Glasgow Live Learning Services Coordinator, and she manages our team of family learning officers. Laura works with me, and we are both, the project is funded through the Scottish Attainment Challenge. So we are part of Glasgow's Attainment Challenge team, and Laura and I jointly manage the team of 6. So I'm a quality improvement officer in education services, and I think the strength of our project is the partnership working between Glasgow Live, who are strong CLD practitioners. They are steeped in this, it's their background training, and what we have an opportunity to do here is to marry up education, because I have the education knowledge and the rest of the team who work with us, they have that background in community learning and development. We are able to bring the two together within education services. So the team sit as part of, they are still Glasgow Life employees, but they sit within education services as part of this project and have been with us for a number of years. So a great team, pleasure to be part of it, and we love our joint approach to this. So Families in Partnership, don't have to tell anybody on this call, possibly, that parental engagement programmes, such as, one that helps parents to use strategies at home, the research evidence is probably covered in other webinars, but we know that anything that we can do at home is going to have a positive impact on educational outcomes for children. There's lots of studies that that will give you the evidence for that. So using that research evidence, we wanted to have work going on in early years that was helping parents to be more engaged in the learning and learning at home. We know that the attainment gap is there at a very early age. Our nursery staff will tell us that they can see the gap when children come in, either at age 2 or age 3, but it is very apparent from an early stage. And we have a 3 to 18 curriculum, and this is about starting work that will help to let parents see that they have an important role in helping to educate their children and to work in partnership with the nurseries as part of their children's education. And if we start young, we hope that we will keep parents with us all the way through. So early years in Glasgow and anywhere else do not have access to the Pupil Equity Fund. So there's no PEF funding that schools would use for, other family engagement projects and family learning projects and all those creative projects that schools have to close the attainment gap. We had a very limited amount of money made available for early years, and that was a little pot that was set aside through the Scottish Attainment Challenge for us to start to do this work with early years colleagues and early years families. So moving on to the next one. So the key principles of the project are improving support to parents and families to help them engage with their child's learning and development, whether that be parents coming into the nursery or the things that they are doing at home. But we want that learning in nursery to continue on into the home environment, because that's what's so important. And we wanted to build up more activity that was evidence-based family learning opportunities and programmes. And some of our programmes are, the Families Connect and other projects like that are all, they've got a strong evidence base, and we would say that they are truly evidence-based. But we have a number of other programmes that, might not be termed evidence-based, but they are based on solid approaches to, to parents helping their children to learn. And there's a strong focus in those programmes on literacy, numeracy and health and well-being. So these are the key principles in which this project is working. We also feel that it's, hugely important to build the relationship between children and the parents and the nursery staff. They're not there, or our educational staff, but anything that we can do in the home environment that is actually improving that bond between parent and child. And parents tell us that they like to have the opportunity, and they like projects that justify them taking the time maybe to work with one of their children and to sit down one-on-one and engage in activity that they both enjoy. And all of that sits very well with positive parenting approaches. For example, the Triple P programme has talking to your child as one of its core strategies. So any work that we are doing to strengthen that communication and to, the learn that comes through learning on, all strands improves the attachment and the positive parenting, which is also vitally important. So before COVID, the pandemic effect is probably featuring in many people's presentations today. Before COVID, we had secured a little pot of money, and nurseries made an application to deliver locally designed projects. The quality was variable. We got some great bids. We also had some that were not so great, and eventually the bids came to me latterly for either approval or sending them back to start again. And usually if I was saying, no, that's not an appropriate project, we had the advantage that the family learning officers could link in with the nurseries to help them to come up with something that was better, a better family learning or family engagement project. So as an example of that, we got a lot of bids for trips. They wanted money to hire a bus to take everybody to the seaside in the summer. And in the past, maybe in the early days of the project, they got money for things like that. But once it was over to me, and I had a much stronger understanding through working alongside Laura and Fatima and the team of what good family learning looked like and what good parental and family engagement looked like, and the quality of the bids then began to improve because the team, could start to support them. So we had a relatively small number of nurseries submitting bids and delivering projects, and it was nothing like even the amount of Glasgow City Council nurseries, because we have our council provision and we have our partnership nurseries, but very few, it was not open to partnership nurseries at that time, but very few council nurseries were bidding and were actually successful. So along came COVID, and we are all looking for the positives of COVID, and maybe now we're all able to get online, but we also saw this as a way to work differently and took a very, very different approach. So we found out late in the day, and we weren't sure at the start of COVID whether there would be money. So come August 2020, we just weren't sure whether we were going to have a pot of money for bidding. So the funding continued. Eventually, we were told about that, but the nurseries were not in a position to bid because they weren't able to have parents into the establishment. So there was no parental access to the premises, but the need to support children with the transition to school didn't go away. And in fact, it probably became more of a pressing issue. And, now speaking to Primary 1 and Primary 2 staff, they can see the impact of children having missed considerable periods of time in nursery provision. So that need to support children with the transition to school became even more important during COVID. So the team, we all got together, we were online all the time, and we designed it was a centrally designed project. And the first year we only offered to Glasgow City Council nurseries because we had a limited pot of money. And Fatima's going to take over from me, and she's going to tell you what we did with that. We also had a lack of certainty about whether parents would be able to get back in. You'll recall that when we were around April, May last year, it was, it was touch and go whether we were going to be able to have visitors to our establishments. So we weren't clear, and we had decided to repeat the project in 2022, but we also included our partnership providers in that project. So I'm going to hand over to Fatima now, who's going to talk to you about what we did to deliver the centrally, driven project.
Thank you, Catherine. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Fatima Doost. I'm one of the family learning officers within the family learning team. I'm going to take you through the process of how we start the project to the end. So the first thing we did, we had to set up a working group. And in that working group, we had a representation from the leaders of early years learning team, the ASN, EAL team, the Gaelic, and the nursery staff around the table. And so the program was just talked through, planned, and from there, the family learning officers, as Catherine mentioned earlier, we are a small team. So we were each assigned about 40 to 50 nurseries to get in touch with them, to find the exact number of the preschool children, and also to get a staff member who was linked to the project in the nursery for our future communication. From there, we had to secure a base which could accommodate the delivery of the resources to the base, and enough space for us to start sorting out the resources and packing them, really. And that was a difficult thing to do. Finding a massive space was a big challenge, which we were successful to secure a place at Hackhill Park Primary School in Glasgow. All the activities which we were talking about in our meetings, they were all designed, and a short film of the activities where family enjoying the activities together was put together. And a lot of the families used these short videos if they didn't want to go through the activity cards. They could just log in and see what the game is about and the activity is. So from there, we thought that we would definitely need to have some volunteers in place, and we were successful in recruiting some parent volunteers who helped us with the read aloud of the book, which I will talk about in the next slide. And also we had some parent volunteer who helped us with the packing of the resources for the nurseries. And then from there, we started ordering all the resources which we required for the program, and also delivered and also put an order for the prints of all the handouts which we needed. Uploaded all the videos to the YouTube with the QR codes attached to them. We were also very busy with putting together a toolkit of the program and published it on our blog, which was accessible to all the nurseries to use all the tools there, which was likes of the step-by-step guide to the program, session planning, session recording, parent evaluation, case studies, and lots of other stuff, which is on the blog. And then from there, what we decided to do was to have some webinars before the start of the program, which we gave information and the aims and objective of the program to the nurseries who took part in the webinars. And also during the delivery of the program, we kept in touch with all the nurseries, and we all came together, and some of the nurseries were happy to share the success stories they had, or to give us feedback from children, parents, from staff in the nursery. And then we had some session as well on supporting the evaluation of the program. So we were there all the way through the delivery of the program. So moving on to the next slide. So now here, as Catherine mentioned, this program, the 4-week program, is literacy, numeracy, and health and well-being focused. So as you can see on week 1, we had the egg shaker and pair of claves for week 1, and with 1 rhyme time activity. So every child received a bag, and every week as it went through the 4 weeks, they would have these tools at the nursery, which they would go through the game, and they will have it in a pack, and they will take it home to continue the activity at home with their families. As you can see on, I don't know, it's a bit small, but on the rhyme time activity card, you can see at the bottom of that every section there is a QR code, which that takes you to a short video which plays the rhyme, and that would be showcasing how to go about it for families. On week 2, we have the numeracy board game with instruction, 4 counters in red, green, yellow, and blue, and also a foam dice, which this was quite a popular one among the families as well. On week 3, moving on to the next slide. Yes, here week 3, we have the Everywhere Bear book, which is written by Julia Donaldson. It's a very visual book with minimum writing. And with this book, as I said earlier, we had parent volunteers who did the read aloud of the book in 9 different languages, which would be Arabic, Urdu, Mandarin, Polish, Farsi, Gaelic, German, Romanian, and English. As you know, we want to encourage families to use their mother tongue and send a message that it is the experience of reading and looking at books together which is important, not reading in English. And that's how we wanted to put the message out to them. So along with the book, there was read aloud, there was the starting school activity card to go with the Everywhere Bear book as well. And on week 4, we had the images to 10 cards, 1 pack of images to 10 cards, and a number activity card for outdoor. The number activity card for outdoor was the one which we added this year, and that was due to the feedback we had the previous year from staff from nursery, which they were looking for some outdoor activity. So this was a new activity added for this year. So I took you through the 4 weeks of the activity, just looking to see if you would think which one of the activities from week 1 to week 4 would have been the most popular one for the children and families. If you could just pop into the chat numbers from 1 to 4, that would be amazing. Okay. All right. I see a lot of 3s, week 3, which is the Everywhere Bear book. Few 2s. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It looked like week 2 was the most popular one for children and family. To our surprise, we thought it would be week 3 probably, but it was 2. But all in all, the feedback we've had from children and families, they absolutely loved the whole 4-week program. And I think one of the ones which we heard a lot was that they were delighted to be able to keep the resources at home and not to have them return to the nursery. Moving on. Oh, and one more question. How many kits do you think we have distributed across Glasgow to all the Glasgow City Council nurseries and partnership nurseries? If you could just put a number in the chat again for me, just an idea, how many kits do you think we've put together for all the children in Glasgow who are starting primary 1? So far I've got 250, 3,000. Any more numbers? 400? Right. Any more? 1,000? Right. We've got 4,000. Well, you'll be surprised. Laura, correct me here. I think we had about 6,811, more or less, the number of the kits which we prepared and was delivered to.
That's the exact amount. So well done, Fatima. It's engraved in our minds. Yes.
It has. Certainly, yes. So it was 6,811 kits, which was prepared and delivered to the nurseries. So here I'm just going to go through about on the support that we provided to parents and the support we provided to the staff. So as I mentioned earlier, we definitely made sure that we have the booked the read alouds in the 9 community languages. As I said earlier, we had the ASN team on board so they could make the adaptation for their establishments. We reached out as many as children as we could across the city. Hence, we decided to go to Glasgow City Council nurseries and partnership nurseries. Even the childminder setting, they were all involved in the program. This was a great opportunity for the staff to reconnect with families, especially after the COVID and the distance which has been in between. So that helped to bring them all together. And support to staff, as I said, all the resources were either picked up by the nursery staff or got delivered by the family learning officers into the nurseries. The blog, as I said, all the resources are there and they are downloadable for for the nurseries, and they have access to all the resources on the blog. Again, we had the webinars, which before, middle, and after, to make sure that we are on the journey with the nursery to make sure that everything is running smoothly. And there has been one family learning officer linked to the nurseries. So in case if they had any questions or any queries, they could immediately get in touch and get support from a family learning officer. And we've had the opportunity for all the nursery staff, if they wanted to join our working group, to help us to develop even further the program. As you can see, there is a QR scan code at the end of the previous slide, which can take you to our blog. Yes, here it is. Scan Me. The team blog is there if you wanted to have a look and see the resources which are available to all the nurseries. Now, moving to the next slide, we have Kerry here. This is quite interesting because Kerry was in the first year that we started the program. Kerry's little boy was in transition from nursery to primary school. So she experienced firsthand receiving all the resources and using them at home. And then the following year, she became one of our parent volunteer at Hackhill Park Primary School and helped us with the packing and sorting out the resources for each nursery. I remember in one session that Kerry was saying that she never could guess last year that how extensive the amount of resources that we had in one place and had to sort them out was really. Kerry, during her parent volunteering at Hackhill, also was doing her Community Achievement Awards. And later she said that going through that process helped her to supported her interview and securing her employment, which is quite wonderful. So I just invite you to listen to this video. I think it's going to be about 2 to 3 minutes video.
You want to maybe come back to that, Fatima, if it's just taking a wee minute to load.
Right. I hope you enjoyed that short video there, and I hope you managed all to see the video. Now I'm handing over to Laura to take you through the evaluation and rest of the program. Thank you.
Fatima, thank you very much. It's always a trial putting on some extra tech, so we hope it worked for most of you. We can always share it another time if needed, but really lovely to see Kerry's reaction to taking part, both as a parent and as volunteer. So moving on.
Baby.
Aye. Moving on then, just to let you know a bit more about the impacts and outcomes of the programme. With our toolkit, we were able to provide lots of different tools and ways for the nurseries to be able to collect evidence. For example, in the toolkit, there were ready-made parent evaluation forms, there was case studies. Through the webinars, we were able to take feedback, verbal feedback too, and we had the kind of Twitter hashtag. So we saw a lot of lovely photographs, and even short films were returned to us as well of parents taking part. What we did do, and it's on the toolkit, was have a self-evaluation document made up which matched with the How Good Is Our project 2.5 quality indicator for family learning. We provided support webinars for the staff to be able to work out how to use that, and really very straightforward opportunity for them to put all their evidence into one place and then report on the project for us. And feedback from that was that they found it quite straightforward to use, and it was really useful for them to have that document to pull everything together. So that's on our toolkit, but that's the first page of it there on the slide, just so you can get a bit of an idea. So we received many of these evaluations back. We received the How Good Is Our project document, but many of the schools also, nurseries also provided us with the additional material as well. And so from that, we were able to write a report that showed that our outcomes were met. I'll not run through every single part of that. I'm looking at our time as well, but you can see a really strong amount of evidence was returned. Myself, Catherine and Fatima spent quite a lot of the summer looking through many of the How Good Is Our project documents, and reading from that whether we believed that the outcomes were met, and they were able to show us in many different ways that they were. So for example, here, the very first one, 99% of the documents were coming back were saying that yes, relationships have been strengthened as a result of taking part in the project, and we know this because of, and they would give us those parts of evidence. For example, they would say that they've witnessed friendships being formed with parents of the children starting school, that they were able to develop the work through taking these groups of parents along to the primary school on extra visits as a result of the project. So for each of these outcomes, it was all backed up with evidence that was sent to us. The one at the bottom sounds quite low, but actually we didn't really expect that to be a big outcome of the project, but we wanted to know that that was part of it as well, and still hearing that some nurseries were able to link parents and carers into some other opportunities. For example, one nursery shared a lot of information about local book bug that was happening in the library up the road, and were able to tell us that some of their parents had gone along to that as a result of them sharing that information. So that was really good to hear. With all the evaluations, we were getting the live kind of quotes back as well. So if you wanted to read these through, rather than me talking it all out, you can see that staff had some really good positive practical things to say as a result of the sessions. That's a staff member from a partnership nursery, which was useful to hear from them. We had parents included, obviously, their quotes and impacts were included in the evaluation form. And this is one dad saying how the QR codes really helped him to get in amongst the songs. We did hear even from Kerry and other parents before that being able to have the QR codes meant they could put the YouTube videos and the songs up on the TV, and it became a whole family affair, singing and dancing in the living room, which is lovely to hear. There's a staff member talking about how it made a difference in particular to their EAL families, and that it's helped them with their acquisition of the English language, because they noticed that they were asking a lot more questions around that. Looking through these quickly, hope that's okay. We didn't specifically ask for this as an outcome, but from the evidence that we got back, we could see that 84% of the nurseries that returned their evaluations showed what they were going to do extra or to build on this project. So that was brilliant for us to hear that we were part of something that's perhaps made some staff think, actually, this has been a real benefit to us and we'd like to do more. It gave them an opportunity to think about what's next. Our family learning officers were involved in some of those discussions to support with them some ideas. So you can see here, in one nursery, there was a group of parents and families got together to make some of the activities a bit more differentiated for their children who had ESN needs. There's one nursery now that's doing regular family teddy bear picnics, that another nursery, or a few nurseries, have asked us to support their wider nursery staff with some training around the benefits of family learning. So some really strong progression has taken place, or is taking place, as a result of the project. As you can imagine, 6,800 children took part, so there were some challenges. I'm laughing as I think of the delivery situation, but at the time, as you can imagine, we were a bit worried that about getting the resources to the families on time to start the project. As an example of that, we asked Macmillan Publishers to do a special run of 6,800 of the Everywhere Bear book. So that took longer than we were originally told, alongside the lorry delivering it actually breaking down on the motorway overnight. So we had very much a last minute decisions to make around some of the timing for the projects, and letting, you know, the 300 or so nurseries know that things like that. There was a wee delay for the day of getting the resources, but we worked through it as a team. And we were really strong on knowing that communication was going to be the key for success for this work, for this project. We knew it wasn't enough just to have emails of staff. We knew that we needed to keep in touch through phone calls and visits when we could as well. So the small team, we worked really hard to ensure that we were engaging with everyone. One thing that we would like to do more of is have more time to work on the activities come next year, to consider how and offer ideas on how they could be used at different levels. So that's something we'd like to do more of, even although it was lovely hearing back from the staff members and the families about how they adapted some of the activities that we gave them. We'd love to be able to spend a bit more time on that. So really the small team, 6 family learning officers, Catherine, ourselves, our small group of Kerry and parent volunteers, and some help from our colleagues in the communities team. Perhaps maybe 14 of us providing the support to ultimately 320 nurseries who we knew themselves were having challenges with their own staff absence. COVID was still very much around. You know, staff were going off sick and they were desperate to deliver the project, but would find very suddenly that they're short-staffed. So, you know, we were aware of all of these things, and it was good that we had the good communication and relationships with the nurseries, that we could be honest and open about you know, some of the issues that were around there. So those were the challenges. We enjoyed trying to work through them with everyone. Everyone was very much on page of let's try and do this for the families of the children starting school. So the challenges are written up in our report as well, which you can use. We're very pleased to be able to do QR codes now. Probably most of you have been doing those for months, but as a team for us, it's fairly new, apart from the activity cards that we showed you earlier. If you wanted, that can take you to our blog and it can show you the full report, which you can download. It'll also give you a little bit of an idea of how we've been able to continue the project. One of our members of our team, Nicola, looked at the week around the Everywhere Bear book and worked with one of the teachers on our steering group to develop activities around it, which were a bit more advanced in terms of the children in primary 1 being able to take forward some of the activities they've already done. So what we did around that was we offered webinars for our primary school colleagues, and I think overall we've had about 85 different primary schools have signed up to hear about an option for a 4-week family learning programme. We provided the Everywhere Bear book and one copy of each of the other resources to every primary school in Glasgow as well, which was another challenge. And from that, we're now supporting, at the stage of supporting these nursery schools to actually deliver it. And we're hearing lovely stories coming back around teachers finding it a really useful tool to engage with the primary 1 children and families, particularly after such a difficult couple of years. And parents are delighted and desperate and knocking down the door to get into their child's school. So they found it a really useful tool to continue with, and we've been delighted to be able to do that. So I think possibly that gives you all the information that we had planned to give you in that short 45 minutes. And so it does leave us with 5 or so minutes for time for questions. And I can see already that someone's asking if the slides will be available. We could do that. What we've got here is our emails, myself and Catherine, if you'd like to take a note of that and email us. But perhaps the best way to do it would be, and Beverly and so on, who's on from the Scottish Learning Festival, can clarify that this will be uploaded onto the website, so you can watch this at your leisure again. And that could give you the information that you might have missed from today as well. But if you've got any other questions, any of you, please just go for it. You can either take your camera and mic off mute and ask us anything, or put a wee question in the chat, or any comments you'd like to offer on the project. We'd love to hear it. I don't know if any of you have been involved in anything similar in your different local authorities around Scotland. Be nice to hear if that's the case. Susan's saying that the film will be available, so that's great. No questions by the looks of things. That must be that we've explained it very well. I'm not sure about that. I guess we could say in summary that we've really appreciated it. You know, it kept us going as a team with something positive through a difficult time. And the fact that we were able to hear directly from the families what a wee difference it was making to them really helped us to keep going too. So, and there's Lisa saying that she was part of the project with your daughter. Oh, that's really nice. And it really brought you together as a family. Lisa, that's lovely to hear. That's what we were hearing quite a lot as a result of the project. And that's what matters to us, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That opportunity for some nice times and amongst some of the difficult challenges that everyone was facing. We love the idea of people dancing in their living room with it on their TVs. Thank you for your comments. Thanks, Lisa. Doesn't seem as if anyone does have any particular questions for us. If any, Catherine or Fatima, any other things we'd like to add? Do you think we've covered it all?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Laura, I was
thank you.
just wondering if there was, people don't need to ask questions, but if they just want to comment, you can feel free to say it over voice if you want to.
Yes. We have 3 minutes left. Gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to ask, Laura, you mentioned about getting some parent volunteers and parent helpers with the packs. Do you want to say anything about how you recruited those parents or how you got them to help out?
Fatima mentioned that one of our challenges was finding a big enough packing space to actually have all of the resources delivered to. Even on the ground floor was an issue. We needed that. And we had already worked quite closely with Hag Hill Park Primary and knew that they had a spare dance studio. Denise, who's another family learning officer, had been supporting the school with some of our other family learning projects, so had already made links with some of the parents. So it kind of married up the space, and the parent volunteers married up really well. Denise got on the phone after chatting to the head teacher to the parents that she had already met, and the head teacher had identified and asked them to become involved. Alongside us having used a Community Achievement Award through Glasgow Kelvin College, we thought it was such a great fit for them to be able to get a qualification for taking part in the project and helping us too. So Kerry and a few other the parents are just finishing off completing that just now with the support from Denise and our team. So we've really appreciated that side of things too.
I have one last question if there's nobody else has got one. So you talked about week 2 resources being the most popular. I just wondered if there was any feedback about why that was most popular. Was anything the families identified?
Do you want to say, or I can remember some of the feedback around that, but basically a lot of the parents, we thought, you know, it's a board game. That's not as exciting as some of the other things. So it was lovely to hear that that was the most popular. And it seemed to be around the fact that actually it was asking for 3 or 4 people to get together and sit round a table and play. It specifically needed that. And so the design of the board game as well was lovely, designed by our leaders of learning, who said that they felt there was opportunities to discuss the kind of design of the actual games and talk about maybe stories that might come from it, because it had a theme of this kind of woodland theme. So yeah, that seemed to be the main reason why it was most popular. Am I right, Fatima?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it gave the opportunity for every member of the family to be involved in the game. And I think that was the beauty of it. And that's how children enjoyed playing the game with every siblings in the family, or even if they had guests over. That's what I heard, that, you know, they carry the games with them if they go to visit, you know, families and friends, or if they have people over, they definitely make sure everyone is involved in the game.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions in the chat pane. So maybe I could just take this opportunity to say thank you very much to Catherine and to Fatima and to Laura for your very informative and interesting session today. It's been wonderful listening to all the good work that's going on, and we look forward to hearing more. So I don't know if you have any next steps for this project.
We mentioned about how we've pushed the project further into primary one, and we're also got our first meeting of our working group again next week, where we can look at the report that we've made and consider what we'd love to do again next year as a result of feedback from staff and parents and children. So yes, watch this space. We really hope to develop it further.
We might just buy the book centrally. I don't think we don't have the capacity to do the packing and distribution, because remember, we couldn't as a team get into schools or nurseries to deliver face-to-face programs, so we were working very differently at that time, and we don't have the capacity to take over a dance studio again. So it might be that we provide some scaffolding and schools can then download and decide, or they can maybe bid in. So we're returning to some bidding in, because we want the good ideas to come through from nurseries. So we've got a small pot of money. We will enable nurseries to bid in for that money, but we may hold some back for a small central aspect and some downloadable activity that nurseries could deliver. But we won't be and I didn't do anything like the amount of packing that the team did, but for a team to go and spend the time to get kits out to almost 7,000 families is not going to be possible this year. So we're going to have to, the project's going to have to keep evolving. But the nursery staff have told us that they like the fact that we give them the ideas. So it may be that we give them the ideas and they might be able to make some of the resources. So it's all very early days. The steering group has helped us to evolve over the last 2 years. They'll help it to evolve again. So it will there'll be similarities, but there will also be significant differences going forward.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Okay, I've put in my email address into the chat pane, so if you don't get a copy of the slides after this, and if there's any way either Susan or myself can help, then please do let us know. And as Susan said, the videos will be made available afterwards. I think it's a couple of weeks that will go live, and then they'll be available for 2 months after that. So thank you very much for joining us today, and hope you have a lovely evening.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming along.